Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Commercial Roofing Radio. And I am jacked up today. I got one of my best buds in the roofing industry here joining me. This guy is an absolute legend, all right? And I do not say those words lightly. So you are tuning in for a fantastic episode. An episode that will allow you to take your roofing company to the next level. Now, my boy, Ronnie Showtime Smith, he is that guy, right? He helps roofing companies get to that next level. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, right? This guy is so legendary that the first time that I interviewed him, the entire power of Denver downtown went out. Right, we had to stop the episode. So I'm telling you, this is going to be a good one. This guy, all right, so he's the owner and CEO of Next Level Solutions. He was the chief growth coach at Job Nimbus, and he is a massive Alabama football fan. So we'll talk a little bit about that, right? We got the Roll Tide going on. Roll Tide, man. And we'll also talk about, so him and his wife Jill did the kicking asphalt tour with Job Nimbus, right? They traveled across the entire country helping contracting companies systemize their business, right? And take it to that next level. So, Ronnie, what up? How we doing, man?
Man, I am doing extremely well, man, and thank you so much it's always a privilege to be with you, Nick, man, as always, dude. We have this kindred type spirit going on, man, in this industry, in this space, so it's always a pleasure, man, to be able to pop in and say hi and come and be with you, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, dude. So, hey, I'm going to bring up a sore subject real quick, all right? So, Alabama lost the national championship game to Georgia. Right, SEC rivals. What happened there? What's your predictions for this next season?
So, I think we got cocky. I think that the players, we play some of the colleges that are not at the same level, and they kind of like walk over them, and they're not at that same level. They're not playing at the level that they need to be playing at, and so they went into that game with an expectation that they were just going to win. And I think by them not preparing, not planning, and they didn't execute it right. And because of that, dude, that's why we freaking lost, man. And so dude. I will tell you this, Nick Saban, 100%, he will actually go back and he will watch those films and he will find out where it was that they messed up and he will fix that. So coming into this next season, man, dude, they're going to freaking kill it.
So, I mean, is there any good takeaways there for business owners, right, who are, successful? Right, you mentioned some things about Alabama getting cocky, not preparing right, and everything like that. What takeaways could business owners get from that football game, that national championship?
That brings up a good point, and I'm actually going to tell you, I was going to save this for the end, but I'll kind of throw it in now, and then I'll plug it at the end on the backside. So there's actually a book that I highly, highly, highly recommend. It was written by Zig Ziglar and Tom Ziglar. And I was with Tom in Texas when we were talking, and they wrote this book. They co-authored this book called Born to Win. And inside of this book, there's 3 things that I really took away from it. Number 1, plan it. Number 2, prepare for it. And then number 3, expect it. Now, when we talk about planning and preparing, I always thought that meant the same thing. But it really means 2 separate things. Planning it means I'm going to strategize the plan. I'm going to plan my work and work my plan. But preparing for it means that you are actually investing in the tools that you need to execute the plan so you can expect to win. And so it's like spending that time in your business and going over the game plans and looking at like where you made the mistakes and setting these processes in place to where you can actually go from one level to another level. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But that's one thing I can tell you about Saban. Matter of fact, we were having a conversation at the campground because I spent 2 weeks at the campground. And one of the guys that I was with actually knows Nick Saban. And they were talking about how they went to dinner, and the whole time they were at dinner, Nick Saban was sitting there at the table, said very few words, and him and his wife was talking with these other people. He was sitting there going over his plan. He was looking at it. He was drawing plans, game plans. He was so obsessed with what he was doing, and that's the reason that this man wins champions, because he eats, he sleeps, and he breathes football just as entrepreneurs. If you're going to be a true entrepreneur, man, you eat, breathe, and sleep this. I've been up since 4:30 this morning, man. Had my first consulting session from 7:30 to 9:30 before I came on with you. So I'm kind of pumped, dude. So you better watch out, man.
I absolutely love that, man. Well, hey, so, I think this would be a good kind of foundation for the conversation, because we're going to be talking a lot about those things that you just mentioned there. Give us a little overview. So when you were the chief growth coach for Job Nimbus, tell me a little bit what you were doing, especially when you were in that RV, going from, one client to the next. Talk a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm. So let me take it back just a little bit further than before then. I actually already owned my consulting firm with, actually it was RJ Business Solutions, which I just rebranded it to Next Level Solutions. Just because of the type of deal. So when I came into Job Nimbus, there's two folds to what I was doing with them. Number one, yes, I was the chief growth coach, but I wore a lot of hats within inside of the organization. And so I built a lot of the infrastructure within inside of Job Nimbus around onboarding, customer experience, customer success. I actually launched the professional services team that exists today, that are business coaches or coachings going out on the software side of things, right? So that's the internal part. But going on the tour and leveling up contractors, a lot of people thought that it was just going in and building out Job Nimbus, setting up some processes. But literally, man, in the last 7 years, I actually looked at it about a week ago, or right before I ended up exiting from Job Nimbus, that over the last 7 years, man, I had actually touched around 3,500 to right at 4,000 contractors in that 7-year period. And these contractors kind of ranged from different sizes. There was some that was like just starting up from the brand new. There was some of these guys that have been around for a little while, and then there was some that's been around forever. And I think, just working with some of the other contractors, matter of fact, one of the contractors in Tennessee, they were at about $30 million, and they had I want to say they had 10 locations, and today they got it close to 40 locations, and they just pushed over $100 million. That being a part of, to be able to see putting in this organization, the efficiencies and the strategy, and then also building out Job Nimbus. So doing the tour, man, it was really awesome, because I had the privilege of, for 6 months, of going from city to city to state and going in and working with contractors to see where they were, to see what's going on in their lives, and then putting a plan together, and then being able to execute it through the vehicle of Job Nimbus, of setting it out and structuring in the way that it needed to be done to be able to, to get to where we needed to be. So that's what's been happening over the last 7 years through Job Nimbus and working with contractors.
So when you started at Job Nimbus, how big was the team? And how big was it when you just left?
Man, that is so crazy, man. So there was only 7 of us. Just in, the company's been around for almost 9 years, and I was around for 7 of those years. And there was just 7 of us, including Rishi, which lives. He does a lot of the mobile app stuff. And man, today, I think, gosh, there's over 200 and something people within inside of the organization now of Job Nimbus. So yeah, so we definitely took that, and a lot, it's public knowledge, but man, we were able to raise one of the highest acquisitions in the software space back last December, to where we got it to, which it's been public knowledge that we took in $53 million.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. So, just out of curiosity, what was that ride like to go from 7 to 200? Because I'm thinking, I have a startup. I know people who have roofing companies or other startups or whatever it might be. That's the goal, right? Like that's the vision. To see, it's like, can we build something like this? What was that like?
So, in the earliest stages, it was like going back to this planning that we were talking about. And, between me and Ben Hansen and Nick Woods and Jason Woods and Jake and Brad, that was the makeup. And so we all wore different hats. And then through the course of actually beginning to it started growing really quick. And so because of the growth, then that's where we started having to hire when we could, because we bootstrapped this thing for, forever. And we didn't take on any cash or anything like that up until last year when we did this acquisition. And so through the process of documenting the process, and one of the things that's very important, and I did this with inside of Job Nimbus, but also have done it with a lot of other companies, is setting the standard operating procedures in place. And what does that look like from marketing, from sales, from going into the operations piece of this and going into HR. And so we just began to formulate all the documentation. And then we had to implement all of that. And to be honest with you, in the last 7 years, we've had this funny thing in the office around Job Nimbus is that, hey, we built this company while we were in the air. We were in a plane that was flying very fast, and we were doing everything as we were in the air. So it makes it a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, man. Well, congrats on success.
Fast pace, man. Very fast pace.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just want to say congrats on all the success you've had, man, and on the new journey. It's super exciting. And, so what I want to talk about today now is how roofing companies can kind of get to that next level. And I think we'll talk about technology, we'll talk about systems, we'll talk about processes, all that kind of stuff, right? Now, you've seen, I think you said 3,500 or 4,000 contractors or something like that, right? I'm sure you've seen all different types of situations. Now, when you're building out your CRM system and having that kind of be the foundation for your processes and the way that your company operates, are you building that for, hey, I'm going to build out this system for where I want to go? Or is it going to be one of those situations where the processes kind of break down a little bit as you scale and you kind of have to adjust some things as you grow?
So part of that is kind of a continuing type thing, Nick. And so I try to go ahead and build it to where they want to go. So in other words, you may have an owner that's wearing all the hats, but by building it out where they want to go, by having a sales process, by having a production process, by having an accounting process in play, what happens is even though that owner potentially could be wearing all of those hats for all of those departments. So look at it this way. I look at it as a department. I have a sales department, I have a production department, I have an accounting department. And so when you structure it that way, you're growing into it. But when you make those sales hires, they know what their processes are. They know from the time that the lead comes in to what they do to how that file is getting passed off and it's going to production or to operations and accounting. So I look at it from the vision standpoint and like where the owner is and where their mindset and where they're trying to go. And then we kind of break it back down. So we look through a fuzzy telescopic view and it's fuzzy, but then we back everything into a microscopic view to where it's very clear. And then we build this clear path on how they're going to get there with over a period of time. Does that make sense?
It sure does, man. And, I think what's so crucial about the services that you provide too is I came from the SaaS industry, right? The software as a service. And, 40% of our clients were contractors. So I was always keeping up to date to seeing how they were doing with the software and stuff like that. And the biggest issue is always the implementation, right? Because it's very easy to kind of sell the dream of what the software can do, whether it's a CRM or any other kind of tool for your company. But unfortunately, you need a professional to implement it, right? Because the biggest thing you're doing is you're trying to implement this tool to make sure that your company is most productive, efficient, and profitable as possible, right? And making sure that communication is very clear, not only internally, but externally. Now, you got to think, if you're a roofing contractor, a roofing business owner, right? If you don't have a lot of tech experience, it's going to be a really big learning curve to get you to where you want to go with the system. So Ideally, right, you want to be able to outsource those weaknesses of yours and making sure that you're maximizing, especially if someone has like 3,500 or 4,000 contractors, right? They've seen it. They've been there. They've done that, right? So it's really smart idea to invest in someone like Ronnie to do something like that, because, it's interesting. We just updated the CRM system we use internally for us. And it's been a game changer, man. It's been a game. Communication's better. Our lead flow is way, way better in terms of how we organize it. We're not missing opportunities. Follow-up's better. We're closing more deals. It has been a game changer. It's made my life way, way better. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of what you're talking about there, Nick, is that I have preached this for years. If you go back and even look at episodes that you and I have done before, can you believe that these simple things have held true for 7 years? Communication breakdown is still the number one problem that I face everywhere I go. Poor expectations is still holding true because they're not communicating internally, they're not communicating to the customers, and so the customers' expectations begin to fall over a period of time. So they wonder, like, when they get to the end of the process and they get into the job, why are they getting a bad review? Follow-up is still holding true. That I just did this huge statistic. We actually got all this data, and what we found out was in the follow-up. So check this statistic out. So if a business owner, if a roofing contractor, or anyone in the contracting world, if they go and see a customer and they never even wrote the estimate, they never even gave it to the customer, right now statistics are showing that it's between 35 to 45% of missed opportunities of not even giving that customer a quote. It ended up being, and I was able to prove this actually I was in Minnesota with a customer, and we actually dug into his numbers, and these numbers held true. For the contractors that actually went to the homeowner, wrote an estimate, but never even followed up with that customer, it was like 75% of missed opportunity after they gave them the estimate just because they didn't follow up. And then just poor visibility. So it's just like in your business, you got to have the right visibility. You got to have the right temperature. And so that's why that when you're looking at the different vehicles, and you'll see that with Next Level Solutions, and I haven't even announced this yet. So the people that I am partnering up with, when you're thinking about your business, you're thinking about operations, you're thinking about marketing, you're thinking about sales, you're thinking about human resources. And then within inside of that, all of the people that I'm partnering up, like Job Nimbus, Sumo Quote, Eagle View, and like some of these other people that I'm endorsing, is because they gotta have the right CRM, they gotta have the right process in place, because when they do, they will actually not only increase their organization, but they're going to increase their efficiency. And it's going to organically grow, man. It will organically. Check this out. I was in Kansas City with Eaton Roofing. This guy's like, hey man, I just want to maintain. I'm good. I don't know if I really want to grow anymore. We just want to be better organized, better efficient. Man, I go back a year later. He's like, man, dude, I'm mad at you. And I'm like, why? He's like, because we grew. They organically grew just because of efficiencies, organization. And then I just went back in January this past year, and we got to talking, man, and they're continuing to grow, and they're continuing to invest in their companies. They're continuing to make themselves a priority in their business, man. So it's really crucial, man.
Dude, that's so good.
I get fired up, dude. So,
dude, that's so good. And if I had to guess, that they're probably more profitable, because it's interesting. So obviously we do the commercial roofing leads, right? And we've had situations where we have forced the contractor that we're working with to stop our services and get a CRM. And then once they had the CRM set up, we return it back on, right? Because we'd be sending over, 100 leads or whatever it is in the few months that we worked together, and we didn't know where they went. You know what I mean? So we've done stuff where it's like, hey, you need to have that CRM, right? And because a lot of people, they come to us and they say, hey, we need more leads or whatever it might be. Sometimes it's actually a process to figure out how to maximize the current leads that you're already having, because you already invested either the time or the money to generate that lead, right? Where is it going now? What is the lead, right? Wouldn't you say that? Because I think a lot of contractors, they get the leads and they have, some stuff set up, but there's not like a full, hey, this is the process for every single lead that we follow no matter what.
So there's two things that when you're talking about that. So, I want to encourage that this is something that through Next Level, even that we can help with, but it's very important to understand what your MQLs are. And what MQLs are is marketing qualified leads. Mm-hmm. And then you also have your SQLs, which is basically your sales qualifying leads. And then once you're qualifying those leads, but right now, Nick, is still holding true, and these numbers may shift a little bit, but from what I understand, that when you're talking about a contractor spending money, now it's not just on your lead source, it's the yard signs, it's the truck wraps, the Facebook ads, buying the leads. Right now, on average, it's showing somewhere between $300 and $350 when you combine all of those things together that you're producing, the swag, the shirts, the hats, and you start looking at that. And so they get a big cost. And if they're not following up with these in a proper way, or they don't have the processes, so that's the number one thing. And then in terms of looking at the processes of how you're doing this, is you're right, because if they're not qualifying those leads to understand what they have, and they don't even call the customers, or they don't ever respond to the customers, they never follow up with emails, we're finding out that text messages right now and SMS is having a higher hit over an email in the industry. So doing SMS and stuff like that is kind of a critical thing as well.
That is so good, man. I love that because, well, dude, 90% of SMS marketing messages are read within the first 3 minutes, right? You got to think about how crowded the inbox is, right? It's very difficult, even for me, to try to make sure that my inbox is completely full. So stuff gets lost. So when you're able to send that text, everybody is reading their text messages almost immediately, right? So it's all about where those eyeballs are. The easiest way to communicate with your prospect or customer, right, without any kind of friction or things getting lost. And I completely agree. SMS is definitely the way to go. Do you think in terms of like lead follow-up process, is there like hey, this is the process, it needs to be this many follow-ups, or is it, you think, hey, it kind of ranges depending on the company?
No, I think there needs to be a process within what those touches. What we're talking about is touches, right? Mm-hmm. How many times are we going to touch that customer? And the thing about that, to me personally, that this is my personal opinion, I think on a personal level that you have to touch that customer at least a minimum of 10 times. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm calling that customer all 10 times. It may be that I'm calling that customer, I'm starting out with a phone call. Then it may mean that I'm going to start out with a text message. Then I may end up going ahead and sending out an email, an automated email, and then I may go back through that process, because a lot of times businesses or homeowners wants to see how really, sometimes they won't even respond to you until after the 10th time. They're like, man, this guy's being very now some people think that's very aggressive, the way that's following up, but I've never had one customer, Nick, ever get pissed off because I followed up with them. Yeah, and that's the biggest problem that we have in this industry right now, is because we don't spend more time. And sometimes people feel like they're bothering them. But this is what I'll tell you. If you're watching this and you're listening to this, you have to understand it's okay to be professional, persistent in what you do. It's okay. It's okay to follow up with them. Customers want you to follow up. So do that. So it's okay. You're being professional. You're not being annoying. You're not doing stuff crazy. It's just that you're touching those customers within a time frame, and then you're setting up these sequences on how you're going to touch that customer and then how many times. But I would say at least a minimum of 10 times.
So good. So good, man. And I love that you just said 10 times, right? Because when I'm talking to contractors, I would say, a decent percentage of them might only do, 1 to 2 touch points and then say the lead is dead, right? And if they did do that 10-step follow-up process, I mean, I can only imagine how many more opportunities that would close. I mean, I'm just being completely honest. Follow-up is one thing that I need to work on too, right? I said, hey, that was pretty much my goal this year is how can I be better at follow-up, right? Because I know that I'm missing opportunities, right? And I get busy and I don't, you need to follow up, right? And I completely agree. I think it's the biggest thing is not only getting busy, but you feel like you're annoying the potential customer, the prospect. But you got to think this way. if communication is the number one issue that customers are dealing with contractors, and you're over communicating, and they probably like that because they can't get a hold of the other guys down the street. So now they're like, oh, this is great. I'm all in.
Yeah, and I will tell you, this is one of the cool things with Job Nimbus. And by the way, through this process with Job Nimbus, they're endorsing me, man. They're standing behind me. I'm going to be at JNSS in Cabo this year, and so one of the cool things with the Job Nimbus, and far as the boards, having the boards gives you the visibility. Everybody in your office, look, we already know you got all the whiteboards hanging around your office, and you're either writing it or you're putting magnets and you're moving stuff around. With Job Nimbus, you have the digital boards that gives you the visibility that you need with automations. And one of the things, Nick, I always do is set up a follow-up process. There's two ways of looking at this. You could either call it a rehash or you could call it a follow-up. For some of the roofing contractors, they may want to be able to have this process where they have someone as a sales coordinator that can go in and actually follow up with these customers if the salesperson doesn't do that.
So what kind of automations are we talking? What does this look like? Let's kind of talk about, because I think the automations could be a good fix.
Yeah. So through the automations, you can, depending on how many times you're going to touch that customer within a 30-day period, right? So one of the things that I would do is you kind of got like that 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, and then you can kind of take it on out. But within that 1 week, you may have 3 touches in that first week, which is basically your phone call, an instant message, and then an email, right? And then once you've done that week, it goes over to the next week. And if you stop to think about it like that, look how many times you actually touch that customer within the first 4 weeks of trying to get them down and locked down. So through automations, you can set those automations up to where you have something going out, like your email can go out on the 7th day, right? You can set up an automated task that says, call the customer today. Set up an automated task that says, hey, shoot them a text message and just check in on them and see like what they have to say. So you would do that over a 30-day window of time. Now, let's be realistic, because some people that are watching this or listening to this, is that there's a difference between residential construction versus commercial construction. And if you're in that commercial construction realm and you're going after bid work, that is a total different process for following up versus someone that's doing a residential, whether they're in the insurance space or whether they're in the retail space. So that's a different type follow-up from commercial construction. So let me just be clear on that.
No, and I completely agree, but some of the stuff still does work for commercial, right? I mean, the verbiage might change, the way you go about the follow-up is going to change, everything like that's probably a little bit more professional, I would say, in the B2B space, right? But, you know, we with the commercial leads, right, if we meet with a client, let's say, right, if we meet with a client and at the end of the month they say, hey, we couldn't get a hold of these people, we put them in a Revive Lost Leads campaign, right, through SMS, right, where we're just following up saying, hey, you know, just a quick touch where it's a very short, hey, this is Nick with, Peak Leads Roofing. Hey, just want to touch base. You have time to chat about that proposal today? Something really, and you'll be surprised. And especially timing is everything. All of a sudden, like the issue they might have is just gotten worse or whatever it might be. And they're like, come out here right now. So no matter what, that does work. One thing I was curious about though is for those out there. So if you guys aren't using a CRM, or if you guys are a little bit confused about the boards that we're talking about, basically think of if you had your whole sales process laid out here, right? Step by step that you want your team to follow, right? And it's just columns. Right, and you want to drag it from the left column all the way to the furthest right column. That is basically the goal. Always push it through as quickly as you can and as effectively as you can. And then think at the top of those columns, it'll be a title. It could be like qualified lead, first touch point, whatever it might be. Do you have any suggestions on those sale boards? Are you setting it up based off of? Go ahead, yeah.
I actually set it up based off of the industry for what I'm actually working in. So if they're in the retail space, it's a little bit easier than people that are in the insurance space that's going through and doing supplements and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing about this is, and the cool thing about this boards is it tells you, to your point, think of it this way: there is processes and destinations. Okay. The processes is beginning in the first part of it. The destination is either A, I'm going to move it into follow-up, B, I'm going to get a contract signed, or C, it goes into a lost sale. So that's called destinations. That's the final place that it's going to go before it either goes to another department or I'm going to kill it. Now, inside of that, but typically when you got the leads that are coming in, we're structuring the appointments or the inspections. And then from there, we're going from that inspection to where we're writing the estimate, or we're waiting on the scope from the insurance company, those types of things, right? And so those are customizable based on the need. And that's the one thing that I really, when I even 7 years ago, when I first ran into Job Nimbus, that I really liked, was because it was customizable. It wasn't just something in a box to where I couldn't adjust it, because my process, even though we're in the same industry, we're kind of doing some of the same things, I can tailor make those boards to what I want them to be. And being able to track your money, man. I mean, there's you can track your money as it's going through that process. So so that's extremely important with those boards for sure.
And I do want to talk about reporting here in a second, but it's funny. It's like, we work with, a variety of different contractors, and, one of my buddies out in Texas, his boards are literally just set up where it's like qualified lead, and then it's like touch point 1, touch point 2, touch point 3, touch point 4, all the way to touch point 7, right? He just has his salespeople just drag it from, and he crushes it with us, right? We had another contractor in the same market, and he said, hey, he didn't have anything. And then one of our buddies, he's expanding our program and stuff like that, and it's literally that simple. And I actually really, I did like his setup. Is this working well?
Here's the thing about it. Being from Alabama, keep it simple. I'm going to just say it. Keep it simple, stupid.
Exactly.
And to your point, keep it simple, but keep it effective. And that's the cool thing about that, Nick, is because you can start out with something as simple as you need to, and then develop into what you want it to be, as long as it makes sense to you and your processes and how your team processes things today. So I agree with you on that. Sorry about that.
And that's a good point too, because be honest with yourself where you feel like you and your team are at, right? In terms of being able to understand this. So if you're just pen and paper, it could be a good idea to go with a very simplistic setup to get you guys going, right?
Totally.
And then add on things like automations and stuff like that in the future, because if you just start throwing everything at your team and they're not even used to using any kind of technology at all, it's going to be a rough implementation, if I had to guess.
It will be, and the more that you can, it's about this, man. It's about adoption. It's about making it make sense, and then adopting it, and then implementing what you have. Because you said something very strong there about people that are on pen and paper. And back when COVID happened, there are so many people that were on pen and paper that it affected because they didn't have any way to digitally to still correspond with the customers. And so through your CRM, through what you're doing, even with JobNiz, because that's what I know the most of, through automations, through digital contracts, through digital work orders and material orders, and still being able to operate that way. A lot of people actually succeeded during the COVID pandemic during that time. And then it's so weird because you had some people in the same city, not that far apart. You had some that was doing well and then some that wasn't. And it was all based around their processes and how they were doing business, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously, it's been some strange times. So the people who were able to adapt and make really efficient company, I mean, I would say keep spending money on marketing and stuff like that too. Being aggressive, being on offense, because we've seen a lot of contractors. I would say during this weird times with the COVID situation, the economy, supply shortages, all that kind of stuff. There's some contractors who have been more aggressive and actually increase spend. Like I've talked to guys that have been in business for 50 years. They weren't doing any marketing. They decided to spend money during these tough times. And then I saw some smaller contractors who were working with us or other people who decided to cut that. So obviously I'm in the marketing space, but I always suggest during tough times to make sure that you actually stay very aggressive for those opportunities, because a lot of people will be pulling back. So it's a great opportunity for you to grow your business and increase market share.
Well, and it does, and that was one of the things, even with through Job Nimbus, through the COVID pandemic, that was something that was a huge concern with us. But we actually put the accelerator down, and we didn't let off of it, and it really worked out around the marketing space. And a lot of times, when we're talking about marketing, is business owners sometimes they don't build that into their business model, and they're making a huge mistake by not having a marketing budget, and even if it's only a certain dollar amount or a flat fee, or they can take a 0.5% of their revenue. Statistics show us somewhere between 1% to 5% is what they should be able to pour back into their business based off of their revenue, and more so when you're first starting out, because you got to get your name out there, you got to get your brand out there, and so it's very crucial. So you're right, Nick, on that for sure.
So for I want to talk a little bit about reporting metrics that matter. I'll just give you an idea first. So for me, we just set up our new CRM system. I have my emails, my texts, all that stuff integrated, so the whole team gets to see all the communications of the accounts. I'm looking at things like the forecast. I'm looking at the deals that are open. I'm looking at all that kind of stuff, right? And the reporting has been huge for me, man. I am absolutely loving it. I can literally just pull this thing up, and I can see how well my business is operating. It is beautiful. It is beautiful. What kind of reports, what kind of metrics should these people actually be looking at? Because, you can make a report on anything. You know what I mean? So what are the metrics that matter, right? What are the KPIs that matter that can be a positive impact on my business if I focus on them?
So let's talk about that for a minute, because it's so crazy, and I'm gonna make a little fun here for a second. So we go to these shows, right? We're at the IRE, we're at RoofCon, and depending on what show you are, depending on what venue it is, you get different answers. One of the things that has held true within the construction industry is a lot of times people know what the revenue go. Oh man, I did 20 million, I did 10 million, I did 5 million, I'm on track to do this. Well, that's great, but then when I start digging in, well, how much of that you're going to keep? Well, all of a sudden you see these deer in the headlights. But then when you start looking at metrics, revenue is definitely important, because that's where you're looking at where you're trying to drive that. But part of the things that Next Level Solutions is working with these contractors on is to know what levers that they have to pull through the metrics in order to be able to get the results that they're looking for. Because, you could be talking about not knowing what your gross profit margins are. A lot of times that the sales teams, they want to sell based on price over. They'll sacrifice the profit for the price instead of moving the customer in the product. So they should be moving them in the product and not the price to hold the profits, right? And so knowing what the net profit is, knowing what your lead to acquisition cost is, know what your break-even points are, know how much money that you're going to invest in marketing, what's going to be the return on that. If I do this, what am I going to expect off of that? How many roofs do I need to do in a year? How many jobs? Maybe it's not in the roofing space, maybe it's in solar. How many jobs do I have to do per year? But here's one even more critical than that. If I'm trying to get to $10 million in revenue, well, that's awesome, but I got to complete that work. Well, if my crews are not delivering, so you have to set something around the production department, around that production manager that says, hey, in order for us to do $10 million, I need you to be able to produce 15 jobs a week. Or I need 10 jobs a day, or whatever the case may be. And so going in to know these numbers and knowing like how much material am I going to buy? One of the biggest problems in this industry that I have experienced as I went across is people not even going back and getting their credits back on their materials, and they're giving up their net profit because they didn't either pick them up or they went and picked them up and they never took them back to get the credit off of it. So it actually lowers the price of their invoices. And it doesn't matter whether if they're in the roofing space, the solar space, inventory, those types of things. So those are just a few of the metrics that's in there, but I will tell you that as I did this whole thing last year, knowing your numbers, right? That was so crucial, and that triggered so many people because they wasn't tying metrics to the individual, and they wasn't setting the right expectations to what they were expecting that person to be able to produce through those numbers. So once you know what your company numbers are, and then being able to back into those numbers and being able to give the individuals, like your sales goal, hey, you need to hit X amount of dollars per week. Okay. And so anyway, so that's just a high level of numbers, but there's a lot more in there that we would track for sure.
Yeah, I mean, having proper reporting is probably one of my favorite things about having a CRM set up for your company, because you got to think, as a business owner, if you don't have that information, you're making a lot of assumptions, right? So the conversations that you're having are kind of difficult because you don't have any kind of data that's actually backing that up. So your decision-making process isn't good. So it's like, how can you make the best decisions? I don't care how smart you are as a leader, or how great of a business owner you are, or how great of a contractor you are in terms of making sure your clients are happy. If you don't have those numbers, man, it's kind of scary, because you don't really know. You can't forecast. You don't know what lead sources are working. You don't know what sales reps are truly crushing it. You know, it's really hard to keep your team accountable. And so actually, it kind of brings me to my next question. This is, and I don't know if you have the right answer to this. Maybe it's bringing you in, right? But it's like, how do you get your team to buy in and use the system, right? Because if they're not using the system, none of this works.
So I actually have an answer for that. So let's talk to the audience for a minute. My experience has been this, is that if you are a business owner and you are an entrepreneur and you own that business, if you don't believe in it, then your team's not going to believe in it. You have to be 150% bought into what it is that you have in your CRM. And if you're not, then you're in the wrong one. Because the moment that you understand it yourself, you cannot push this off on your office manager. I see this a lot when I went in, oh, my office person takes care of all that. And the owner knows nothing about the system. They know nothing about their processes. Well, I don't have time for that. And so the point of it is that as an owner, you have to get into it so you understand it. So because when you understand it and you see the outcome that you're getting with what you're doing in your processes, then that means that now you can hold the other people accountable that when they're not doing it. But you can't hold somebody accountable if you're not doing it yourself.
Mm-hmm. So well said, right? I completely agree. The owner has to be involved. They have to understand what's going on, right? Because they're going to be you got to lead by example there, and chances are the leader probably knows a lot of the processes. One of my other questions is when you're building out the CRM, should you be talking to the person who is the head of production, the person who is head of sales? Should you only be talking to the owner? What does that involvement look like when you're trying to take these systems and the way the business operates, right? It's already all there, and you got to pretty much drag it in and get it written out, right?
Right. Well, there's several things to look at this, because it's not just the CRM. It's also part of the standard operating procedures, and also part of knowing the numbers, but also knowing those processes. And so typically when I go in and I go do an onsite with a company, is I got to see where the head of the actual vision is, which is the actual owner of the company. What's your vision? Where are you wanting to go? I'm keeping the end in mind of where he's trying to get to back this up. And then we kind of set the foundation to what it's going to look like. And then I can pull in like a production manager. Man, it's been my experience that when you start getting in a bunch of people at one time, all of a sudden you have all of these different opinions. Nobody can agree. If you're the business owner, like where you want to go, where's your vision, what you're trying to get to, let's set the baseline. Once the baseline gets set, then let's pull in and make sure that lines up with production, make sure it lines up with accounting. Okay, is this what you really do? And I'll be honest with you, I was in Texas, I don't even know anymore. I think it was last year that I was there. But when I was there, I actually met with each individual independently, and they didn't even know what their job description was. They didn't even know what was being expected of them to be able to do. And I run into this all the time. So going in and building this out and having these conversations with your people. And one of the things I did this with Randy Brothers when I was with him at the Roofing Academy. I built built this GPS to Success of 2022, and it was basically going into the end of last year of like laying this thing out to where like go have these meetings with your people. What was the top 5 things that you felt like that we did right as a company? What are the top 5 things that you felt like that we did not do very well that we need to change? And when you have these individual conversations with your people, right, and then you know what you did well, what you didn't do well, now you can put this list together. And I actually gave that out last year through Randy's little deal, but going through there and building those processes out, to sum this up, is that I typically like working with the owner, because I have gone in earlier on in this career and doing it and tried to work with the office person. I tried to work with a salesperson or the sales manager. They didn't have the vision. They didn't have the direction to where the owner wanted to go. We built everything out, and then the owner's like, no, this don't work for me. And then we had to redo the whole thing, right? Hands down, deal with the owner, get all that laid out, and empower him. And if you can see this, I showed this to you earlier, man. See, look, it's right here, dude. It's right there. Educate, empower, and execute, dude. You know, so if you can educate your team and then you empower your team and let them do their job, allow them to make mistakes, and then see what happens, and the execution is going to be on point, guaranteed.
Love that answer. I completely agree with that. I have another question for you here. You mentioned multi-locations. You know, you mentioned someone that went from 4 to, I think, 20 locations, something like that. You know, I was talking to one guy pretty recently, and it was actually just at 2 locations, right? But one was commercial and residential, and then the other one was just residential. Now, what would a process like that look like? Are you setting up separate boards for those? Are you setting different accounts? What does that look like? What do you say?
No, not at all. And then there again, you know, when you're looking at through Job Nimbus's eyes, that's the beauty about having multiple locations. And because of the new boards and the way that they structured the new boards, it allows like every location to be on the same process with the residential. So where you would separate it is based off of the industry type. So if they are doing residential, if they are doing commercial, if they are doing service and repairs, well, I may have 3 different types of industries that could potentially have different processes, but everything can be in one account. And then that way you have everybody in one place and they're living in their boards, because through the process of how you're structuring this through Job Nimbus is all the salespeople only see what they need to see. And now that the managers can filter stuff down and they're only looking at their stuff, and then you don't have to go have all this crazy stuff. And I mean, that is the only way to do it, is scalability. And I would like to put something in here around something that I've actually thought about this year. And when I started categorizing businesses and where they are, and when you're looking at scalability and you're trying to go from 1 location to 4 locations to 10 locations, you have to be in the right frame of mind, and you have to have the right foundation and to be able to do that, right? So one of the things that I've looked at is you got the businesses that's coming out of the ground, they're trying to scale up. Well, if they start from the very beginning and they got the right infrastructure in place all the way around, internally, externally, softwares, whatever, then they're going to be okay. But I ran into a lot of businesses that they knew how to sell, but they've never really operated or owned a business before. And because of that, they didn't have the infrastructure in place. They didn't have the processes in place. So they actually need to scale back to where you can fix the problem so they can move forward. And then you got the third option, which is you got the companies that have been around for 25 years, but through organization efficiencies, they're just going to organically grow. And so when you take someone that's got 1 location, they get that dialed in. Well, guess what? It's just duplication after that. You're not reinventing the wheel, because you have everything that you need on the ground level, and all you're doing is going in there and adding another company, and you already got the processes dialed in. You already got your standard operating procedures in place. You've already got your operation systems in place with your numbers and your core values. True. And so when you get ready to launch that second or third or fourth, it's just going to be just like that, and you're going to be able to come right out of the gate and be successful.
You know, I've heard, you know, systems break kind of, you scale and you rebuild them. I would say, you know, even for us as we've grown, I started noticing certain ways that we operate, that the business don't work anymore, and we had to adjust. Should people be ready for that when they're making big leaps and big growth?
Well, it's going to happen. It even happened with us, even at Job Nimbus, I mean, because as we began to grow and as we began to develop, the things that we started out doing in the beginning that worked no longer worked anymore. So we actually had to go in and assess those things. And so, so through your growth and through hiring, and there's way more than what we have time on this segment to talk about, but it's like, what does onboarding look like for you to hire someone? What's day one going to look like for that person that you're bringing in? Are you going to teach them how to use software? Do you have any certification programs in place for them? So all of that is kind of revolving, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing with Next Level, because there's always going to be a next level. And if you are evolving and you're growing, and if you're not evolving and you're not growing, you're going to get left behind, because you got so many smart people, man. That we actually met this kid. This guy's like 20 years old. He's 21 years old, and he's doing $15 million in the roofing space right now. And it's just crazy. And the oldest person in his company is 27 years old. And these guys, I mean, this kid is like on fire. And because he knows how to use technology, he knows how to brand himself. He's never really ran a business, but now he's getting that infrastructure in place to where this kid, there's no telling what this kid's going to do at 20 years old, man. It's just crazy.
I love that point, actually. And if I was a contractor who has been in this space for a while, right, established company, but I could probably use some help with technology, it wouldn't be a bad idea too, just to kind of change the culture up, to have some younger people on the staff that are really good with technology. Whenever I'm looking for the latest and greatest apps or platforms, I'm going and hang out with my little cousins. You know what I mean? Because they get it first usually. You know what I mean? So it's one of those situations where
exactly
you don't have to have the mindset of, hey, I want to grow this huge company. But in terms of operationally, you always want to evolve, because if you're not, chances are you're going to get beat by the competition. And personally, I don't want to work for a company that's out of date. That does not sound very exciting.
Right. Well, we're dealing with, I'm an old fart, but we're dealing with a generation now that is very intelligent. They really are.
They are.
They know how to research. They know how to do it. Matter of fact, man, even with this relaunch, man, people that are already going out and looking for me, dude, they found my content. I just relaunched my YouTube page. Man, you got to go up and subscribe to my YouTube page, because there's going to be so many things that are getting ready to come into this content that's fixing to blow this whole industry into a whole different place. But through the content, it's important that you have good content, and you got to understand your why. You got to understand why. It's not about the money. It's not, if you're in business because it's just about the money, get out, because that's for the wrong reason. You got to have a bigger why to what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're going to do it, what difference that you're trying to make in this industry, and those types of things. But with content, dude, I was the oldest person in Job Nimbus up until a certain point, and then everybody else was like in their 20s and 30s in Job Nimbus, and here I am, old grandfather. Gray hair, no hair. So we're in an industry that the way that you did business a year ago is not going to sustain what's happening this year or the next year, because it's going to continue to do. And if you do not stay up on this content and you don't stay up on the industry, listen, for you that listening, if you are not investing in yourself, I'm going to show you something real quick. I'm going to slide. Dude, this is just the things I've got rolling right now. And I'm investing I'm investing in self-help. I'm investing in business. I'm doing all kinds. Charlie Sheena's book, man, is the bomb when it comes around sales, man. I've got Randy Brothers stuff in there. I'm constantly listening. I'm constantly pouring into my life. And if you're not doing that, then you're not doing yourself any favors.
Great takeaway right there. You need to be pouring into yourself, development, education. You got to think that. You feel like, whenever I'm, having my best habits, I'm reading, right? I'm getting my sleep. I'm doing anything I can for self-development, improving different skills. I feel like $1,000,000, man. You know what happens then is I bring that into the company. And as a leader, when I'm setting the tone where everyone's looking at his man, Nick keeps investing in himself and stuff like that, right? They want to be part of that. So I think having just a culture of personal growth and development is such a big thing, and we actually do that at work too. We have our work goals, and then we have our personal goals, right? Some people are workout classes. Some people are, hey, I want to go on X amount of dates. It doesn't matter, right? But all that stuff is great. Now,
right.
We could probably honestly talk all day, so I feel like we're probably going to have to do another segment, but I do. Before we go, we have a game. Okay, so I don't know if I told you we have a game to end it, but before we go into the game, what's the best way to get in contact with you, Ronnie?
So actually, there's two ways that you can get in touch with me. You can go to Ronnie at Next Level, and it's nxtlvlsolutions.co. So it's Ronnie Next Level Solutions. Just drop the E's out. Or you can actually call me at 844-669-8585. And you can come in and call that number. And man, for a lot of you that is out in this industry that know me, you already have my cell number. So you can just give me a buzz. But that's the best way to probably reach out to me. And my website, dude, is getting ready to freaking launch, and there's some stuff in there that's going to be coming out soon. So I'll be able to share more later.
Happy for you, bud, man. And guys out there, Ronnie's one of the good guys, right? Ronnie Showtime Smith. He's got so much knowledge, so much experience. Just link up with him. It's a no-brainer, right? People like me and Ronnie, we're here to help. We generally do want to help you grow your business because that's our purpose, right? I mean, when we get to see the results that we're producing for you guys. So make sure you're looking up with them. Oh, hey there. You come here often? I feel like I see you every Wednesday. And, you definitely caught my eye. I'll tell you one thing. You know how to stand out from a crowd. You already got a lot of great things going for you. I mean, I see your company. I see what you got going on. I want to be part of it. How about I give you my number and you send me a text? 720-796-4935. Hey, yeah, it's Nick. Right, peakleads.io. I think we can help you generate some commercial roofing leads. Looking forward to chatting. Talk soon. But Ronnie, all right, we got a game here, all right? So it is Who Wants to Be a Roofing Millionaire, all right? So this is how it works. There's going to be 5 questions. You get 2 lifelines. You get 50-50, which will remove 2 of the wrong answers, leaving you with a 50% chance of getting it correct. The second is phone a friend. So you can call one person. If they don't pick up, you lose the lifeline. Sound good?
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Now these questions are going to be specifically tailored for you. All right. We all know.
God. Okay.
We all know you're a huge Alabama football guy. All right. Here's some trivia. Which of the following Alabama football players did not win the Heisman Trophy? Is it A, Joe Namath, B, Mark Ingram, C, Derrick Henry, or D, Devontae Smith?
Ooh. Tell me one more time. Give me the 4 one more time.
We got
Joe
A.
Namath was one of them.
We got A, Joe Namath, B, Derrick Henry, or B, Mark Ingram, C, Derrick Henry, or D, Devontae Smith?
Oh, gosh. I think it's Henry.
I hate to say it, but it's A, Joe Namath. Who would have thought? Namath didn't get one, man. That's crazy,
You know what? I should have went with my first instinct and say him because for some reason I was thinking that he did back then, but I guess he didn't. Dang it.
It's wild that the one quarterback on that was the one who didn't get it, too. You know, the other people were skilled positions, running back and receiver. That is wild.
I should have called Jill down here.
Yeah, you should have. You should have, for real. All right, you ready for the next question?
Yep.
All right, so we know you basically went on a road trip across the entire U.S., right, with the Kicking Asphalt tour with John Nimbus. Luckily, you were decked out in an RV, right? Otherwise, you might have been, stopping at truck stops in the route, right, like a lot of other people. Now, just for fun, what state do you think has the largest truck stop in the U.S.? We got A, Iowa, B, Kansas, C, Georgia, or D, Alabama?
Georgia, Texas. No, you didn't say Texas. Iowa, Georgia. Who was the other two?
So we have Iowa, Kansas, Georgia, or Alabama.
The biggest truck stops. I'm going to go with Roll Tide. I'm going to go with Alabama.
We got A, Iowa. And I've actually been there. It was beautiful.
Iowa, no way.
Yeah, I've been there, dude. It was unbelievable. One of the best experiences of my life. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Iowa,
well,
dude.
That's for me staying in campgrounds, man. I didn't stay at the truck stops. I stayed in the campgrounds.
I love it, dude. All right, well, now I got a CRM question for you now. All right. So what do you think here? I know that you know a thing or two about a CRMs, if I had to guess, right? So what percent?
I know a few things about them.
What percent of companies, right, with 10 employees or more, use a CRM? Is it A, 91%? B, 43%, C, 30%, or D, 5%?
I'm going to say it's 30%.
This one surprised me. This one was actually a 91%. I thought it was going to be much lower than that, to be honest with you.
No, really?
Yeah.
I didn't think that 10 or more. Wow. Okay. Where'd you find that data?
So according to Grand View Research, but this has gone up drastically though, because it looks like it was down to almost, I think it was like 16% or something like that in 2016. It looks like it's just continued to increase over time with more and more people adapting to CRM system, which just shows how important that is. But it's interesting. I went to a conference, right? We did 8 breakout sessions at this conference. It's the exact same speech, right? To every single one, I actually asked them, "Hey, raise your hand if you're using a CRM," and it was a very low percentage. I would say it was probably less than half in the room. I would say maybe 30%, maybe 3 out of 10.
Yeah, that's why I picked 30% on that. Now I wonder if they're actually keeping that as like Excel spreadsheets, because some people think that QuickBooks and Excel spreadsheets is kind of like their CRM for people that are on pen and paper. That would make more sense to me.
That could be what it is.
Wrong. I'm just kidding.
Who knows? I mean, I think a lot of statistics are wrong. You know what I mean? It's like who knows? But All right, you're gonna get this one right here, okay? And remember, all right, you got two left, all right? You got two questions left. It looks like. Remember, you got two lifelines if you need it. Ronnie, you can't let me down. You gotta get one of these answers right for me, all right? Because this has been the greatest episode yet. You know, we got to end it on a strong note, all right? All right, you ready? Now, don't forget to use your lifelines if you need them, all right? Nowadays,
all right,
you're living pretty close to Memphis, Tennessee. All right. What famous singer did not live in Memphis? All right. Is it A, Justin Timberlake, B, Elvis Presley, C, Aretha Franklin, or D, Keith Urban?
Who was the last one? You're breaking up on me, man. Say it one more time.
The last one was Keith Urban, the country singer.
Yeah, Keith Urban didn't live in Memphis. I know Justin Timberlake lives in Mumford. I know where he lives at. And Elvis Presley lived out there off of Brooks Road, and Aretha Franklin lived here. So I'm gonna say the last one.
Amen. Let's go. He got it right. I love it. All right.
Yes.
So also too, have you seen that new Elvis movie, by the way? I heard it's really good.
No, but I want to go see it. I'm a huge movie buff. I mean, I got my own little theater upstairs that I always go up and watch movies, and I have not seen it yet.
Oh, awesome. I heard it. I heard amazing things. I got to check it out. My favorite movie so far this year, though, Top Gun. Top Gun, unbelievable.
Yes. Jill and I went and saw that one, and you are absolutely right. I loved it. But I was back in the 80s when that came out, man, so that was awesome.
Dude, so good, man. All right, we got one more question. We got one last Alabama football roll tide, all right? You need to represent your squad right here. Who has the most rushing yards out of a stacked running back history, right? Unbelievable. In a single season, all right? They had 1,797 yards, right? So a little under 1,800 yards in one season. And remember, a college season is shorter, much shorter than NFL season. So that's pretty incredible. Is it A, Mark Ingram, B, Derrick Henry, C, Sean Alexander, or D, Trent Richardson? Remember, you got two lifelines if you need it. You can't Google, bro. You can't Google, dude. I see you over there with those four monitors, bro.
I'm not. No. I'm not gonna Google. I'm gonna get Jill. I'm gonna get her on the phone.
You gotta put her on speaker. You gotta put her on speaker. Jill better answer.
Okay.
You lose your lifeline if
she
doesn't
better
pick
answer.
up.
Oh man, I'll kill her. She's upstairs. I'll have to run over and get her.
Hey, you can't leave the room. You can't leave the seats. You know the rules.
Oh no. Okay. Here we go. Hey, pick up your phone. She's not gonna pick up, man. I'm gonna knock her out. Man.
No way.
She better not. She did not.
No.
Oh, dude. Okay, all right. So
you got one more lifeline, though. You got one more lifeline, though.
We're so freaking.
You got one more life. Do you want to use the 50-50?
What's the lifeline?
It'll eliminate two of the wrong answers.
Yeah, let's do the 50-50.
Yeah, we're going to use the 50.
Yeah, let's do the 50-50.
And you're going to have a talk with Jill after this one, all right? So, all right. So now
I am. She's right upstairs.
You got two. I eliminated Mark Ingram and Trent Richardson, leaving you with either Derrick Henry or Sean Alexander.
It was Derrick Henry.
Boom. We got it. He ends it on a strong note. He closes out 2 in a row. Let's go. We got a prize for you. So Danae will be reaching out to you, and she'll be connecting you about the prize. So we appreciate you having you on, man. And the last thing to close it out is the end with enlightenment, man. So you could end it with a book suggestion, a quote, a life lesson, whatever it might be, something positive to leave the viewers with.
I'll leave you with this is two things. I mentioned it earlier. If you have not read Born to Win, everybody is born to win. And it's all about looking at yourself and look at how you can make a better you. And I would highly recommend looking at that, because you can plan your future, you can prepare for your future, and then if you do it right, you can expect to win. But on another note, guys, listen, pour into yourself, educate yourself, empower yourself, empower your teams, and then execute what you want to do. And I'm telling you, I've seen it over and over and over again. It just comes back to you, man. So I'll leave you with that. Everybody's born to win.
My man, Ronnie Showtime Smith. I appreciate you, my dude. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. As always, Nick, man, I appreciate it. Hey, when you get through this, I'll put this up on the YouTube channel, man, so let me know when it's ready.
Absolutely, my dude. Everybody out there, win the day. All right, let's keep finishing this year strong. This is prime season. Let's go, everybody. Go get it.
Absolutely. See you guys.